just in this phase of work, we're generally making it our business to talk to as many people as we can, hence this meeting. We have a presentation which we'll run through, and then we're going to we'll go through that. It'll be a sort of proper briefing on the scheme, and then we'll stay for as long as there are questions. I thought first of all, before I start speaking, I'll just introduce everyone. So Caroline.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Caroline Keeler, and I'm a development manager working for Retirement Villages Group.
Thank you. Lucy.
Morning, I'm Lucy Wilford. I'm from DHA Planning. I'm the planning consultant acting on behalf of Retirement Villages on the proposal.
Thank you. And Dominic.
Morning, everyone. My name's Dominic Haley. I'm the lead architect on the scheme for Collado Collins Architects.
Thank you. And so in a minute, Dominic will run through a presentation briefing of the scheme. But I think first of all, Caroline will just give you a brief introduction to Retirement Villages.
Is it okay if I just share screen now, Caroline, to put your first slide up? Thanks.
Great. Okay, so thank you for inviting us to speak to you today. Before we get into the detail, which Dominic will take you through, I'll start by giving a bit of a brief overview about Retirement Villages Group, or RVG. So RVG is a specialist developer operator of retirement communities where we help people live independently with care and support on hand according to their specific needs. We own and run 16 retirement communities throughout England. The oldest has actually been established over 40 years, since 1981, I believe. So we really see ourselves as a long-term partner in each location where we choose to invest. Since 2017, we've been owned by AXA. So that brought this funding and stability required to bring forward a number of new development opportunities. And this new chapter in the history of the company is also marked by our new vision for retirement living. And this includes moving away from what was traditionally more isolated sort of rural settings where we operated previously. And we're now looking more to work with existing towns and communities. So it's not just physically, but functionally too. So a great example of this new vision is Botanical Place, which is our new retirement community at West Byfleet, which some of you may know about. Botanical Place, we're replacing derelict buildings, which are in the heart of the town, and we're replacing it with a retirement community that faces onto a public square. We're going to have new shops, a library, restaurant, community facilities, and health and well-being facilities. And this will be a resource not just for our residents, but also for the wider community. Like the ABC Cinema site, the West Byfleet site has seen a number of planning applications refused and approved in the past, but none of them had been viable. So the site had remained redundant for a number of years before we got involved with AXA's backing. We see the ABC Cinema site as our perfect sort of next opportunity to deliver our new vision for retirement living. So our developments enable older people to continue living the way they want to in their existing community rather than retreat from the life that they know and love. So we try and give a purpose and fulfillment in whatever people want to do, whether that's continuing to play an active role in civic society, whether it's being close to the grandkids, or being physically and socially active with friends. So the cinema site is really perfectly located to offer a great deal as a place to live in later life. But we also believe our proposals for the site will be a positive addition to the vitality and vibrancy of the town centre. It's been 23 years now since the ABC Cinema closed, and there's been 5 different planning applications. I think it's been 8 years since the buildings were cleared. So we're well aware for the need for our plans to be realistic and also deliverable. In addition to the new homes, the retirement homes we're planning for the site, we know we need to repair the gap in the townscape. We need to create new spaces where people can come together. And we need to provide new commercial spaces for local businesses that complement rather than compete with the existing uses around the site. We're working now just to create a really vibrant place, which can be an asset to everyone that calls Tunbridge Wells home, not just future residents of our retirement community. So there's a lot more, I guess, I could cover this morning about our vision for the site and the community we're trying to create, but I will hand over to Dominic now to discuss a bit more about the design and functioning of the buildings.
Thank you, Caroline, and good morning again, everybody. I'll run through in this brief presentation just a bit about our understanding of the site, about the design process and the principles we've put behind the design, always sort of linking back to, as Caroline says, this really important thing for RVG, for Retirement Villages Group, to be an active part of the town, of the community that they're coming into. So you're obviously all very familiar with the site and what went on there. I myself grew up in Tunbridge Wells. It's great to be able to sort of come back to the town and work on such an important site. I've spent many an afternoon and evening as a teenager in that cinema. I took my driving test, did many hill starts up Mount Pleasant Road, probably ruining traffic in the town for a couple of days. But still a long connection to the town, so really delighted to have been involved to participate in the design process for the site. You know, for too long now, as Caroline says, this site has just been a gap, an empty space right in the middle of Tunbridge Wells, and it's right between the sort of Pantiles and the High Street, the south end of the town, and Royal Victoria Place up in the north end, and it's kind of like the missing link through the town. So it's really important that what we bring forward on the site works at street level, but as Caroline said, also works in terms of viability and deliverability, so that we can actually make something happen on this site that's lain vacant for far too long. You're probably aware of the previous consent, or some of them that have come along on the site in the past, both from 2009 scheme, a scheme consented in 2017 that was then taken over by another retirement operator and slightly amended in 2019, but also fell through. Always, it seems that some of the constraints and the viability issues around the site complicate matters. So it's a real driver for us to make sure that what comes forward can absolutely be delivered on the site. Now, one of the reasons, or one of the many reasons probably, that things have struggled on the site are all the constraints that come with the site. You know, its orientation, the buildings around it, the line of the Victorian tunnel that runs underneath the western side of the site, sorry, the eastern side of the site, beg your pardon, the need to create an activity along this north-south connection between the top of the town and the bottom, and just the edge conditions, the different uses that are around the site, both the retail and the sort of cultural uses on Mount Pleasant Road and Church Road, but also then, you know, the some residential, some office uses tucked away on the back of the Clanricarde estate. Probably the most complicated thing of all on the site is the levels. The topography of the site is such that it slopes in two different directions. As you know, if you've crossed either of the footpaths which still traverse the site, and the need to re-provide those footpaths is also something that has to be integrated into the scheme. So when we're looking at bringing forward Retirement Village's vision for the site, there are those key factors to consider. So what we're looking at fitting into the site is around 150 new homes, a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and a range of sizes that are the right kind of scale and size for people moving out of larger family homes that need something that sort of suits changing needs as they grow older. So they're sort of future-proofed in terms of adaptability for people's mobility changes as they age. There will be a number of on-site facilities, a cafe bistro perhaps, a range of spaces which we've been discussing with many people during the public consultation and would like to discuss with yourselves also today. Spaces for public access, which can be used by the community or by local interest groups, spaces for food and beverage offerings, but then also some spaces for the occupants of the scheme. What's really important to remember on this is that it's a truly mixed use development, but in bringing that forward, because Retirement Villages will be owning and operating the entire building from day one, then all of these street level activities will be open and active from day one. It's really important to them that they have a thriving community right from when the first resident moves in. Very important to us to reactivate the sort of hoarding lines that we've lived with for so long in Tunbridge Wells, on Mount Pleasant Road and around the corner onto Church Road. We're putting in 4 new retail units, which we're thinking we target more towards independent local businesses rather than large national chains. And then the whole scheme is centred around a new genuinely public space, which the public right of way would pass through right in the heart of the scheme, which I'll describe a little bit more as we go through. And one of the principal drivers for RVG and indeed for the town is wellness, and we really want to put the well back into Tunbridge Wells on this site, with some spa facilities, hydrotherapy pool perhaps, gym and yoga studios, basically facilities for the public as well as the occupants of the scheme to use that are geared towards well-being. Is that someone piping up with a question or just a noise? No, I'll carry on. If you want to ask a question, do shout. Just in terms of transport, we're looking at putting up approximately 60 parking spaces within the site. There's a real gearing for Retirement Villages Group towards the future, towards sustainability, towards a net zero carbon building over the whole life of the building, but also in terms of supporting evolving modes of sustainable transport, whether that's extensive electric vehicle charging up to 100% of the parking spaces, whether that's provision of an electric minibus serving the residents for day trips, whether that's supporting local car club schemes, which I know are coming on strong in Tunbridge Wells, or whether that's providing adequate cycle parking spaces, including electric cycle parking on the site as well. So really looking at sustainable modes of transport rather than relying entirely on petrol and diesel cars, because there's a real eye to the future in this scheme. When we come to the street level uses, because of the slope of the hill, we have to split into 3 drawings effectively over 3 stories because of the change of topography and height across the scheme. We have to split the floor plans. So starting on the left here, at the lower part of Mount Pleasant Road, this is where we're siting the 4 new retail units, which directly relate to the street and are largely independent of the rest of the scheme. And then sort of nearer the top, about midway up the length of the site, we have a level access in through this new courtyard, which is at the heart of the scheme, linking across to the Clanricarde estate on the western side of the site. And this is where the public right of way will be routed through that. That will be open 24/7. That will be well lit. That will be secure, and there will be, security measures within the courtyard and around the scheme, CCTV and so forth. We are aware that there is potential, particularly in the evenings, for antisocial behaviour, and we can design a lot of that out by providing well lit, well overlooked spaces that, while they are public and open, also feel like they belong to a place and are not just sort of a backland route. Within the building then, there's this real mix of functions. The green represents the wellness functions, which are the real focus on the top corner, where we face the open space at the corner of Mount Pleasant and Church Road. Some amenities primarily for the operation of the building, the lobby and the management of the building related to the courtyard. But then these blue spaces, a bar, a multifunction room for any activity that might want to fit into it, and then a restaurant activating the courtyard as well. They're all things that are built into the scheme and active, as I said, from day one. So the core principles for us as architects for the design of the scheme are that we create the building forms and spaces that make something special happen on the site, but also relate to what's going on around the site, that embrace the different uses and functions that are active, that complement, as Caroline said, rather than compete with what's around, but also offer something back in terms of those uses and in terms of that public courtyard, which is at the heart of the scheme. We're very conscious also that we are putting dwellings on this site, and we want to make sure they are good quality dwellings. So we think long and hard about what the residential outlook is going to be, and how we get everybody living in the site, within the site, to have a decent view from their home, but also then what the townscape is like. There are a number of listed buildings very close to the site. There's obviously the retail frontages along Mount Pleasant Road. There's the Trinity Arts Centre, which obviously needs to be kind of recognised. So it's about having the right relationships with those when we bring forward a building as well. So this stepping back of the building line that you can see here is really a response to creating openness in the street, but also to bring forward something that deals with the line of this tunnel underneath, which is a key constraint, which has been a real problem for the viability and deliverability of previous schemes. So when we look at the scheme as a whole, just as a roof plan, it's effectively split into 4 separate buildings, with gaps in between to allow these routes through, to allow daylight to enter the courtyard, and just to kind of then, when we get into the architectural design, to be able to break up the scheme in, so it's not a single monolithic unicoloured development like some of the previous consents, but actually that each piece, block then can respond to its immediate context and to the buildings that are close to it, whether that's in terms of material colour, whether that's in terms of creating a sort of unifying ground floor use, responding to the uses, whether that's looking at the longer views and how we treat the tops of buildings so that they are sort of distinct in longer views, and kind of break down the mass into something that has variety and interest in those views, or whether indeed it's about kind of recognising this civic space between the civic centre and our site that is quite a large open space actually, albeit traversed by roads, but vastly improved recently by a lot of the street level works that have gone on there. And then finally, one of the things that's really important to retirement villages is to provide a degree of private external amenity space for each of their residents. Now, we know from the past 2 years or so of the pandemic that older people are particularly vulnerable. They do need to isolate for their own well-being or for the well-being of others. So provision of private outdoor space, the ability to enjoy some of the outdoors, is really key on the scheme. So we're looking to provide balconies for every apartment within the development. What we've done is have a quick look back at the previous consented scheme and our kind of early massing models, just to study and understand the relationship between what's come before and where we are now. So we're broadly similar in terms of height on that corner. But then as we step down the hill, there are differences in the massing because we're treating the building differently. One of the main points to note, I suppose, is that the previous scheme had a cinema, which was a low box at the southern end of the site on Mount Pleasant Road. Now that we're not placing a cinema within our proposals, then obviously we're having a different height relationship at the bottom part of the site and building up with residential uses instead. And what that creates actually is a sort of a better lining of the street, if you like, and a better piece of townscape. But what's important to note as well is while we're similar in height, because we're setting the buildings back from the street edge a lot more, there's a much greater sense of openness along Mount Pleasant Road, and in that view up the hill there's a greater view of sky and light in the space. So we're studying and looking at all these views around the site, whether that's along Church Road, whether that is looking up Clanricard Road or from Clanricard Gardens. And at the same time, we are looking at what's great about Tunbridge Wells. And one of the things that's great about Tunbridge Wells is actually it has a really kind of rich and diverse architectural language. It has neo-Gothic, it has sort of austere Art Deco, if you like. It has the fantastic churches. It has these wonderful railings and balconies and bays. These delineation of stories. There's a lot of interest, and what we're looking at doing is taking inspiration from that and complementing that without just sort of mimicking it and creating something that is a pastiche of what has come before, if you like. So, looking at these very early kind of model views, and please bear in mind we are still in the process of designing this building and refining this building, of adding detail and refining detail, and discussing with both the local planning authority and anyone we can talk to about what they feel is important in terms of not only use but in terms of building detail and articulation. We're still evolving this building, so some of these, there'll be, as you go through, sort of, I'll explain some older views and then some updated pieces of design that come on. So this is one of the early views we did just to understand how we sit in Mount Pleasant Road. And then this is a recent view just looking at how we relate these retail spaces to the slope of the hill along there. And we have landscape architects at PRP working on a scheme to really integrate the levels that we have to deal with giving level access and accessibility into the buildings. So this is all kind of coming forward in terms of providing those good quality spaces and good access. So when we look at Building B as it is on Mount Pleasant Road, what we're really trying to do is reflect some of the sort of stuccoed, paler Regency buildings in the town, whether that's a horizontal story delineation, whether that's adding interest in the way that we treat the balcony bays, or whether that's kind of breaking it down into sort of elements of bays along the facade that steps back just to reflect kind of what's happening on the other side of the road and some of the quality architecture that's around. When we look at then that key corner and that grand space, as I said, we're looking at something of height, admittedly, of similar height to the previous proposals, and because of the scale of the space, it feels quite appropriate. And here we've taken reference, if you like, both from the old cinema cinema itself, and also from the Art Deco Civic Centre on the other side. So we're looking at a more kind of refined, and then we are still refining the treatment in terms of the detail of the brickwork, the detail on the balconies. Unfortunately, it doesn't come out in any great level on this slide, but you know, articulated brick and so forth on these pieces, just to add that level of interest and reflect what's going on diagonally opposite. And then we're conscious of the colour palette and of our position in terms of the long view along Church Road, how we deal with that elevation then in terms of its stepping and its height relationship is something that we're considering in a great deal of detail as well. One of the views that a lot of the local councillors see when they're exiting chambers, perhaps you've had the opportunity to look through this arched window coming out from chambers in the Civic Centre. You know, for many years, as Caroline said, the site has been vacant, eight or so years since the cinema was demolished, and 10+ years before that when it was effectively boarded up. So, you know, they've had to look at this empty site or these decaying buildings for so long. So we thought it'd be a bit of fun just to put in, rather sort of crudely, but put in what our proposal would sit like in that view, just to give an impression of how it deals opposite. The other area that we're looking at in great detail is how we relate to the Clanricarde estate, these sort of grand red brick Victorian villas, which have a kind of different articulation again, and how we break those buildings up into a series of bays, how we express rainwater pipes, and treat the elevation and the facade in a way that reflects that particular context. Central to all of this is how we work in detail, and we are still very much, as I said, evolving that level of detail, looking at what's great about some of the old ironwork on the buildings. And, you know, admittedly, these are not there yet in terms of how we treat these balconies and how we add light and shade and interest onto those facades. And I've been sitting with my colleagues actually this morning after a meeting with Greg Clark MP yesterday evening, and also after some of the consultation feedback about how we can look to bring a bit more joy and life into the railings and into these facades in particular that have this relationship with great buildings in Tunbridge Wells. Also, the central courtyard space is something we're studying in a great deal of detail. The amount of daylight, the relationship between public functions, active functions, dwellings and so forth in that space, and just how all these things fit together. And I mentioned that the landscape architects are working up a plan. So here's one of their early schemes, which shows how they're creating access into the retail, how we're kind of creating a landscape steps and tree feature similar to what happens diagonally opposite in front of the Civic Centre, but still allowing level access, because this site, it just doesn't stop sloping. It slopes all the way up to this corner, down along Mount Pleasant Road, and then up again to Clanricarde Gardens. So weaving through the public right of way and providing a step-free route across the site is a challenge that they're working to resolve also, while still allowing good quality open space that can, you know, have good functions in it, whether that's, you know, a summer open air cinema, whether that's morning Tai Chi sessions, whether that's a nice south facing terrace outside the restaurant to have a meal or a coffee. All of these things can go on in that space, and we're really open to bringing in all those activities really, and balancing that with good levels of new planting and greenness. One of the important things that we're looking to integrate is a water feature into the site. We know how important the wells are to Tunbridge Wells. You know, it's a town predicated on water almost. So bringing some element of a water feature, perhaps within the courtyard, perhaps on this corner here, linking into the courtyard, is something we're also still exploring. So I've covered a lot of different pieces there, possibly quite rapidly. So just to sort of reorient where we sit, different blocks of buildings that relate to their context, still, as I say, being developed in terms of their level of detail, but having articulation that refers back to some of the details we've seen and loved around Tunbridge Wells, and creating really that active function at street level and that really active public courtyard in the centre. We've carried out a public consultation exercise over the last couple of weeks, so I think the website is probably still live, and I think comments can still be submitted. Maybe Gabriel will clear up on that. We had the in-person exhibition at the end of March, and in terms of our timeline going forward, we're looking at submitting a planning application in summer of this year, hoping to get to planning committee at the autumn of this year in order to make a real start on site in the autumn of 2023 once we've gone through the technical design process. So that's a whistle-stop tour through where we are and kind of where we're going. And I think all of the team here will be glad to take any questions or comments that you might have. I'll stop sharing the screen so we can all see each other again.
Thank you, Dominic. And just very quickly to add, yes, the website is still live. Strictly speaking, the consultation period is over, but we are still in practice receiving comments and processing them. Obviously, we'll take notes from this meeting today, but if you have any other comments, do please get them to us ASAP, because we'll be undertaking design review in the not too distant future. So thank you for the presentation, Dominic. We're happy to stay for as long as it takes, really, for any questions.
That's lovely, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about what we've just seen? Silence.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Anyone?
Everyone's overwhelmed. Any questions at all? If anyone does have any questions, how can they submit them afterwards? Because there'll be people watching this back who haven't been able to attend. So what's the best way to make their views known?
So Rupert's put his hand up there. Hi, Rupert.
Hi. Dominic, so I may have missed it, but the top corner, i.e. where Mount Pleasant meets Church Road, I missed what's happening on the ground floor there?
The ground floor there at the moment, we're looking at that being the entrance to the spa and wellness function in the centre, and then a kind of healthy living, healthy eating. We're calling it a juice bar at the moment on one side, with then a yoga studio and a gym on the other side, or not just yoga studio.
Is that public use? That's not just for the residents?
Yes, so there will be facilities that can be booked out or used for classes for the public, and there will be, a degree of access also to the spa and wellness that's on the lower floor.
Okay.
I'm
just concerned that being involved in Mount Pleasant and a lot of the lettings and sales down there, the lack of a continuation of a parade is quite. You break after Coat Restaurant, you cross the road, and if it's dead, then it's dead, and you've only got the 4 units down at the bottom. People would think I'm mad encouraging retail, but there is a demand. But I just worry that corner becomes a little bit blank, dead, because the town generally is lost between the Royal Victoria Centre and the Pansars, and Mount Pleasant is a very weak spine at the moment. It just needs that flow to make this linear town, a little bit more easy to walk through.
No, absolutely, and that's something that we've had long conversations with the local planning authority about as well, because they're keen to plug in those active uses. So those will be those wellness functions that are owned and operated by retirement villages, but very much for public access also.
That's from footfall. Fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Very good.
Thank you. Can I just ask as well, in terms of the retail units, do you have an idea of what kind of businesses those would be? Do you have anything in mind, or?
At the moment, we don't have exactly who it would be, but we've got a retail consultant on board who see it as kind of targeting more local businesses rather than national chains. But when we get to that point, we'll market and see where the interest from. But also, it'd be great to hear your views on who might want to go there, because we want to make sure we get people in as soon as possible and make it really active. And like you were saying, kind of connect up that bit of Mount Pleasant, which is currently completely vacant. So I
was just going to add, from a planning perspective, when we apply for planning permission, we wouldn't be limiting the uses to retail. So we're looking for a broad range of commercial uses. So kind of drinking, kind of food establishments as well, to kind of maximise take up of those units and kind of contribute as quickly as possible to activity along Mount Pleasant.
Lovely, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? So as I was saying, if anyone does have any questions afterwards, or anyone watching this back, what is the best way to make those views known?
Sarah Jane, I will send you afterwards a link to the website and also the email address, actually, and the phone number, and people can use any of them. You can, there's a contact form via the website, so any is fine. I would encourage any comments sooner rather than later, so that we can consider them with all the other feedback we've received.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, and thank you for the presentation. It was very thorough and very interesting. So thank you so much for attending. We really, really appreciate it. No, that's great. And as I say, I will share this with our broader community of businesses as well, who will enjoy watching it back, I'm sure. So thank you very much for your time.
Great.
Much, much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Lovely. Okay, so Jess, where I can't see everyone on my screen. So I'd like now to hand over to Jess Gibson of the TN Card, who will be updating us on all the fantastic work she's doing for independent businesses across Tunbridge Wells in particular on this occasion, but also neighbouring areas. So Jess, can I hand over to you?
Thank you, Sarah Jane. I want to start by thanking you for inviting me to be part of this morning, but also for our recent chats, and it's been great to get to know you. You're doing a brilliant job leading the bid now, so you have my
I should mention as well to everyone that Jess has very kindly contributed a column to the magazine as well, so she'll be in each issue highlighting some of her favourite TN Card members. So that's great, because that's a couple of pages I don't have to write, so that's much.
I don't have any favourites, don't worry, Jess. So I thought, apologies to TN Card partners on the call who know all this already, but I thought I'd start by just introducing myself personally. My background is marketing and events. I spent 12 years working as a marketing and events manager for an investment bank. And then in my early 30s, I had a bit of a midlife crisis, sold the house, resigned, flew out to South Africa, got married, got pregnant, came back to the UK, thought, oh, my husband will like Tunbridge Wells. So we settled in Tunbridge Wells. And then I had 4 young boys in quick succession. Couldn't get back to the events arena because it's impossible as a mum. So I began to blog about family life. And I also started working for a children's meal company in London and discovered the power of social media. So for the last 10 years, I've been working as a social media consultant, as well as a parent blogger, working with lots of local businesses on days out, restaurants, and family life. And then 2 years ago, I was approached by a local leisure group called Kent Pass, who wanted me to manage the Kent branch of their similar concept, in that you have a card and you get discounts for local attractions. And it got me thinking that actually maybe it's something that we could be using in our community in Tunbridge and Tunbridge Wells. Although I had lived in Tunbridge Wells, I'm now over in Lyon, Tunbridge, but very passionate about the community, how special it is. And at the same time, I've been walking through the top end of the Tunbridge Wells, saw another closure of our independence, and thought this is the time to launch a practical scheme that really gets our community proud of where we live, get back through the doors of these independents and give our independents a mouthpiece. So the premise of the scheme is that it is 100% free for a high street business. There is no payment required, and it is open and accessible to all. So my income revenue stream is through selling memberships. So a member of the public can pay £2.99 a month or £25 a year for membership, which is a little club that rewards them for supporting local. And in return, any business on the high street can join, particularly independents, on the proviso that they thank our community for supporting local. So 2 years ago we launched. Fast forward to today, I was just totaling up some numbers. As we stand, there are now 630 businesses in the scheme. 95% of those are independents. Doing a bit of math, there are 168 retailers, 216 food and drink partners, 72 health fitness partners, 71 hair and beauty partners. There are also professional services, leisure partners such as hotels and days out. But over 60% of those businesses are Tunbridge Wells. So we have 215 in the town centre, extending out to Southborough, Langton Green, Frant, Rustle, Wadhurst, Hawkhurst, St John's. And Tunbridge Wells is the heart of the scheme, not only because geographically it's the largest area, but because I really feel passionately about Tunbridge Wells. And I cover all areas. So just looking at Camden Road, because I can see Jeff there are 18 independent businesses on Camden Road at the moment that are part of the scheme. And then as we go through Monson Road, we've got Glass, going down Mount down High Street and into the Pantark. There are 2,007 active paid members in this scheme as of this morning. But with the app having launched 4 or 5 weeks ago, those numbers are rising significantly. The exciting thing for me with the TN card is that it's at a tipping point in Tunbridge Wells. So the people do know about the brand now, they understand the concept, and new businesses are now approaching me. So for about a year, I was pretty much a stalker in Tunbridge Wells, popping in saying hello and just introducing myself. But now I'm at a point where new businesses coming into the town are getting in touch. So very recently, Ruby of Ruby's Bakery, who's opening in the Patisserie Valerie site on Monson Road, she's contacted me. She's now part of the TN community. You also have Bubba and me next to Bocca's Social. They're both joining the TN card. So it's really exciting. But the most exciting part for me is actually the wonderful community that the TN card is building, not only between business partners and the collaboration between businesses, but also the exciting active membership group of members who really are keen to support local. And it's a very active community. So I have dabbled at several different marketing tools to offer businesses. So I've had podcasts. Last year, I had my first series of podcasts. I'll be starting to record my second series next month. Jeff had a podcast chat, viral internet sensation, Jeff.
Absolutely.
And Donna from Stampede, Donna will be speaking on the second series, hopefully. I have a monthly page in So Magazine, and each month I use that to chat to TN card partners. So Claudia was very kindly my interviewee for, is it February or March? In May, I'm speaking to Chapel Place, Gray & Co, Stephen Gray. So that's a really nice thing that I can offer TN card partners all without charge. Now, there are monthly events which bring members together to build that sense of community, one or two, at least one every month in Tunbridge Wells. This month, we have a member event at the Massage Company on Monson Road. And the lovely thing about these events is it brings partners together. So Derek and Sarah at Taste Wells are there with their food. I have a skincare partner coming in. There'll be drink. And just a chance for members to meet the people behind brands and maybe try something different and come back having appreciated an independent. Also, I have a shopping evening at Trinity Theatre next week, which is really exciting. So it's the first time that Trinity have opened their doors for local makers. So I have 22 TN card partners coming along, free of charge for them. They have a table. Members and Trinity members can come along to that evening totally free of charge, get 10% off their shopping. The bar's open, there'll be music, and it's open to the whole community. So it's just different ways of engaging the community, linking up shoppers and members with TN card partners. And Sarah Jane mentioned that I'm now going to be contributing to the Bin magazine, which is very exciting. I've already got plans for the next 2 or 3 issues. Sorry, Sarah Jane. You'll have to rein me in on the word count, so do be strict on that.
Do I need to put in extra pages?
I think you might have to, yeah.
An extra flat spread.
Exactly. Social media is a big part of the TN card. I love it because it's a free, cheap, easy way to reach a lot of people quickly. There are nearly 11,000 followers on social media, the TN card, over the last 2 years. 3,000 people now on the mailing list for my monthly newsletters. But more exciting for me, I now have Facebook groups. So if you're a TN card partner, there's now a closed group for businesses to encourage collaboration between brands and to bring everyone together. There's also an exclusive member group. You can only join if you're a member. And each month, members are encouraged to share their photos of the TN card being used and the independents they've discovered. So there are only 600 members in that group at the moment, but people are joining all the time. And it's really wonderful to see photos. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of goodwill for our independents. It's great to see photos. And I'm rewarding one member a month with £50 to spend at a TN card partner of their choice to say thank you for sharing their photos. Because people are used to seeing the polished images on websites and social media of our independent style businesses, and it's really lovely to see informal blog style and members sharing their rewards. But as I say, the key thing is it's not a discount scheme, it's a reward scheme. So it's open to every business, whether you're an independent or a franchise, as long as you thank that member for supporting local. Having seen that there is a place for the TN card over the last 2 years, I took the plunge and invested in an app. Started development on it in the last summer. Asked Studio 44, a local tech company, to help me with that. Thankfully, I had half of it was funded by 2 local grants, one from Locase. I was able to prove that the TN card helps to reduce the carbon footprint of consumers, and that the app would facilitate that further, and Southeast Business Boost. So that covered half, of the rest is a business loan. Now, the app makes the TN card quite exciting, because key feedback from both businesses and members was members didn't know who was a partner, and some members would lose their cards or leave it at home. So the app makes the TN card membership digital. So as a member is walking down the road now, in Upper Grosvenor Road, for example, or Monson Road, they will get a push notification as they pass a TN card partner. If a new business joins the scheme, a member will be alerted to that. There's an events directory, but members can also set their preferences. They can say what their interest is, where they live, whether they're interested in Tunbridge Wells, for example, Tunbridge, food and drink, or leisure, and they will get specific information relating to their interests. Also, as you're looking for partners, you can search by category, filter that. There's an interactive map, so it picks up where you are and shows you who's in the location. And it's a digital card, so members don't have to worry about losing their card anymore. It also appeals to men. At the moment, 90% of my members are female, because we have a purse, basically. But since the app's been launched, there has been a marked increase in the number of male users. Jeff, do you agree?
I don't know. I carry a purse, so I don't know.
Oh, well, Jeff, well, there you go. Jeff has a digital card, but most of us, I think there's a significant move
That's
towards digital.
That is interesting, though.
I'm always going to have, how to say politely, the older generation, they do like their physical cards, and that will also be offered. But for everyone else, the digital card is so much more useful. And most excitingly for my partners, I'm now able to capture high-level data. So apologies to Jeff, your QR code is still in my car. I'll be dropping it off later. But for everyone else, each partner has a little A5 point of sale sign to stick on there by the till with their unique QR code. And as members check in with the app, it logs their activity, which they can see in their reward history. But also 6 months down the line, as everyone's scanning, I can provide businesses with high-level data on the demographic of members coming to them. So I can say to TN1, you're at a TN1, I'm actually bringing people across from Tunbridge to you, and so they can see the value. So I can tell everyone the gender, the age groups, the location, and it's really it's all about equipping and providing a toolkit, that the big players have to give our independents that edge that might not be affordable. And as I say, it's totally free. I could ramble on lots, because my passion is our independence, and I get very excited about Tunbridge Wells, but I will wrap it up. So my ambitions for this year, 2 years in, I still am a team of 1. So I'll be doing everything from photography and social media to putting all those 600 businesses on the website, and everything. I hopefully will have a team at the end of the year. What I would like is to have a point of contact for Tunbridge Wells. So the TN card is seen on the street. The partners actually have a guaranteed visit from the TN card on a regular basis, and points of contact within each town, because each town is totally different and needs to be celebrated as such. Also an admin, so that offloads it for me, and I can spend more time doing what I love, which is meeting you and really helping our towns. Also, one exciting part of the TN card is that everyone can get involved, whether it's an individual who wants to support local, a business on the high street, but also our local employers. So I'm really going to be driving this year and saying to large companies like the AXAs, that's part of your corporate responsibility. The TN card is a wonderful thing to get behind. Not only does membership make a great staff reward, Christmas gift, but you're also contributing to the lifeblood of our town. You're putting money into the tills of our independence. But also the TN card supports West Kent Mind. So the mental health charity is supported with 10% from all memberships going to the charity. And what I should have said before is, as a mum of boys, I'm scared by the stats on mental health. I have my own mental health struggles, as many of us do. We don't often talk about it. And from the outset, I knew that I wanted the scheme to support West Kent Mind. And it's been particularly relevant over the last 2 years, where I really believe that mental health is a hidden cost of this pandemic. You know, it's all too obvious that we see boarded up shops and the struggles that we've had physically, but mental health is the real issue. And if I can help that charity and get the word out about mental health and open that conversation up, I'm really pleased to do that. So far, the TN card has raised £11,600 for West Kent Mind, not only through membership sales, but through fundraisers. Each event I do raises money. So as a local employer, if you reward your staff with membership, not only are you encouraging them to give back to our town, but you're also supporting that charity. And I think I've covered most things, but I do have partners on the call, so I don't know if anyone wants to say how it works for them, or if anyone's got any questions, I'm very happy to answer.
Anyone got any questions for Jess? Jess, what's the best way if anyone's interested in the TN card to get in touch with you?
Well, as I said, because I'm a team of one, if you contact through socials or the website, it all comes to me. Otherwise, I'm jess@thetncard.com.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate it, and looking forward to doing more with you, hopefully, as everything moves on. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Does anyone have anything they want to add, anything they've got going on? Sarah Louise, can I just throw to you anything from Tunbridge Wells Borough Council and on the Amelia front, or visit Tunbridge Wells?
I did want to remind everyone that the Amelia is opening on the 28th of April. As from 12 noon, you can see the cutting of the ribbon, and it will be open to the public, which is really exciting. And we've also got the literary festival that's happening from the 29th of April to the 2nd of May. And we actually, it's blurred, I don't know if you can see, but we've got a flyer going around, and if any businesses would like any flyers actually to put in their business, you're welcome to contact me, and we can get some over to you. Yeah, some really exciting events happening during the festival. Yeah, I think that's sort of everything from me, but yeah, an exciting time.
Yeah, I had a sneaky little tour of the Amelia yesterday, and it looks fantastic. It's really amazing.